Fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hand. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand. Fear's not allowed, where dreams can be lost or found.
Hello and welcome to Healing Outside the Box. This is our 21st show. Tonight's topic is depression and finding the natural cure. With us tonight we have Aviva Wertkin. She's a naturopath in Hamden, Connecticut. Welcome to our show.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm Traci Crampton, and this is Rosemary Lachance.
You're an EFT practitioner and a
Right.
Reiki practitioner.
Doing all the intros tonight.
And I'm Rosemary Lachance, and I'm a Reiki practitioner. Before we let Aviva talk with us, we're going to read a little bit about her, let you know a little bit about her. I have a short bio here. Dr. Wertkin earned her Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine at Southwest College of My tongue is stuck in front of my eye tooth. I can't see what I'm saying. At Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona. She has conducted research at the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine and at the National Institute of Mental Health, as well as the Southwest College Research Institute, resulting in several publications, period. Dr. Wertkin is also a 3-time recipient of the National Institute of Health's prestigious Intramural Research Training Award. She is currently working in a family medicine practice at Natural Health Associates on Whitney Avenue in Hamden, Connecticut. Dr. Wertkin sees patients with complaints of all kinds, ranging from colds and flus to irritable bowel disease and diabetes, but is particularly interested in neuroendocrine immunology and treating conditions such as depression, chronic fatigue, and fibromyalgia. She also sees children with health problems ranging from asthma to autism. Dr. Wertkin also uses classical naturopathic therapies along with acupuncture in her practice and is mindful of the psycho-spiritual aspects of illness. I got through that.
Wow.
Blah, blah, blah.
That neuroendocrine immunology, that's a tough one. All those hyphens in there.
Yeah, like just tongue, I don't know what happens. It gets swollen or something. You can't talk. So anyway, the first thing we always like to ask you is, what made you get into naturopathic medicine?
It's a wonderful question. And I think it was a combination of things. You know, since I was young, I remember I loved helping people. You know, as soon as I could stand, I was rubbing people's shoulders and always trying to be helpful and just loved helping people. And I thought I was going to go more into the path of feeding starving children in Ethiopia and going to Africa and saving lives. But as I was in college, I started studying the sciences and getting interested in public health and realizing all these things that really started interesting me more. But I never imagined I'd wanted to be a doctor. That for some reason that never appealed to me until I came across naturopathic medicine. And it just made so much sense to me. I had that aha, because it wasn't just using natural products, it was the philosophy that made so much sense to me. Because I always asked, well, why is that happening? You know, what's the underlying cause and how do you correct that? That just made so much more sense to me.
Right.
So learning about the philosophy was just, as soon as I learned about that, that's exactly what I want to do. And it's been so wonderful. I couldn't be happier and I couldn't think of anything else I would do at this point.
That's terrific.
So were you interested in natural means of healing yourself first? Is that how that developed?
Yes, and I was also raised by very holistically minded parents.
That's nice.
So that helped
That's
a lot.
nice,
And I, for many years, I was a vegetarian and just very interested in healthy eating and how foods affect the body. So I was exposed to it a lot, and it wasn't very new to me, you know. So
Right.
everything just kind of bridged together. in a sense. And even my mom is actually a holistic psychotherapist herself, who studied nutrition and herbs and homeopathy, and we'd go hiking or running together,
so
and she'd point out plants and say,
Wow, what a
you
lovely-
can use this for that. And I started learning how Mother Nature created these plants that are very medicinal, and how you can go in your backyard and find medicine. And I just went, wow, that is so amazing. And I just loved using sort of home remedies and those natural ways of restoring health. And so,
Fantastic. So you have
And as we've
good
learned,
supportive parents
yeah,
to help
pick
you
your
along the way.
parents.
Sometimes
You pick your parents before you incarnate, and of course, you pick the perfect parents
yeah, it worked
Right,
out really
yeah.
well. Yeah, they've been very supportive and encouraging.
for what you
Excellent.
would do. Yeah, that's terrific. That really is.
Thanks. I think that helps.
So we're going to talk about depression tonight. So first of all, what is depression? I mean, we know what it is, but I think you can give us a better explanation from your
Yeah,
point
I'd
of
be
view.
happy to. And I think that defining that is sort of central to what we're going to talk about
Right.
tonight. Conventionally, depression is defined as a mental disease or a mental disorder, and it's defined by its symptoms. It's categorized, so you can have major depression, minor depression, bipolar, post-traumatic stress, seasonal affective disorder, all these different groups. So it's sort of an umbrella term, and there are no specific, conventionally, there are no specific tests that you would do. It's based on the symptoms, meeting those criteria for how long you've had them and how frequently. So things that are a little obvious, like feeling sad, feeling lonely, low self-esteem, low self-worth, uncontrolled guilt. It can be symptoms like sleeping a lot, not sleeping, having trouble sleeping, like insomnia, eating too much, not eating enough, the weight loss, weight gain, not wanting to be around the same social circle anymore, withdrawing, those kinds of symptoms. And if you think about it, all of those can have many different causes. So from a naturopathic perspective, it's much more than a mental disorder. It's a multifactorial
it's like an
thing.
umbrella
It's a
term
huge
for a lot
umbrella
of different
term.
aspects. Yes.
And it can go so much more beyond the mind. So when when someone comes in and they say, I'm concerned about depression or I'm being treated for it, I'm always looking for that underlying imbalance, because that's what it is. Even if it's a symptom, it's an expression of some imbalance,
Imbalance in
in the body.
physical, in the body?
Physical
Oh.
or emotional.
Emotional, yeah.
And sometimes a lot of times it's both. It isn't just
Right.
one. you
One
know.
feeds the other. One imbalance is
So it
usually
could be,
causing
I
the-
don't think people have talked about that words could be in the body that could cause you to be
Right.
depressed. Mostly thinking
Well, I think a
it's all
lot
in
of
the
us
mind.
have, categorized it as a psychological,
Right.
psychiatric
Exactly.
condition, whereas, it's an imbalance in the body that could produce that symptom, right? So,
Absolutely, absolutely. I just recently was working with someone, a woman in her, I'll just give you sort of a case example
Yes,
of that.
good.
A woman in her 50s she came in complaining of suddenly having a racing heart and feeling really anxious and kind of depressed and really concerned, thought she was having a heart attack, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And so I, did a physical exam and started evaluating her, and I also sent her to a cardiologist because I can't do an EKG in my office or an echocardiogram, and so I wanted her to have a full cardiac workup, cover all my bases, and at the same time doing my evaluation and finding out why is she having this, rapid heart rate. And the conventional doctors said, well, she has inappropriate sinus tachycardia, which means all of the tests came back normal. They couldn't understand it, so it was inappropriate. And it was fancy terms
it's
for
inappropriate, even though
how
it's
dare
happening.
you have this? And
That's a funny
tachycardia
word
is just
to use.
Latin for a fast heart rate. And so they put her on a beta blocker, and she's like, well, I don't want to take drugs, but I want to feel better. And she started it, and it did lower her heart rate a little bit, but then she started developing joint pain and muscle aches and feeling really achy. And please, Dr. Wertkin, get me off of this. So I evaluated her thyroid and her adrenals and her neurotransmitters, and we can talk more about that. Fine-tuning, and at the same time, I said, a lot of your tests are coming back normal, and let's talk about what's going on emotionally. And I'm feeling like there's some kind of fear going on, and in our discussion, she revealed that her and her husband have been having some issues. They've been married over 20 years, but she's been sort of suppressing this unhappiness in the relationship. And we started dealing with that, and we combined some acupuncture and energy work and all these things, balancing both the physical and emotional. And she got better, but it was very slow, and I kept saying, there's something else going on, and I'm not giving up until we get to the root of this. And about a month into it, she called me and said, I'm having a terrible time with my teeth. Is there anything you can help with the pain? I'm like, What's going on with your teeth? Oh, Dr. Wertkin, I just had another root canal and I have this bridge and I'm having trouble with all my cavities. And I went, oh, that's what it is. It's all coming from your mouth. So I referred her to a holistic dentist I know, and he checked her out, and lo and behold, it was all of this stuff dentally. And when he started treating her mouth and her teeth, all of her symptoms went away.
Wow.
And it was so cool. And at the same time,
It's interesting because I had a friend who had some dental and like abscesses and infections, and she was having the rapid heart thing too.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's very closely
It's
related.
connected.
And in the Chinese medicine perspective, each of your teeth is connected to a meridian or
Right,
an energy
yeah.
or an organ in the body. And so the cool thing, just to conclude the story, is at the same time we were working together, she started talking to her husband about what was going on for her and needing him to be there for her, and it totally reconnected them. And she told me about how at night she started dreaming they were together, and for the first time in years they'd wake up in each other's arms. And so her healing was, we
On
did
so
a
many
lot, on
levels.
so many levels. You could rebalance, and it was almost a gift to have these symptoms come up because she addressed what was going on in her mouth, in her body, in her mind, in her heart, and all of it worked out so beautifully.
This is why I love natural medicine and naturopathic doctors, because they address the problem and they don't stop till they find it. Instead of most doctors just give you medicine and we'll give you that mess, okay, we'll give you that mess, okay, we'll give you that mess. But it's just, and each one makes you crazy with the side effects, it's just,
And had she gone that other route, they just wanted to keep increasing the beta blocker.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Right.
See?
And then you have the
then
side
she
effects
would've-
of that, plus the side effects of
Plus,
what
she's
all-
not helping her marriage, and her teeth
and
are
all-
still.
and her
Yeah.
teeth are still going to have that problem, and it just becomes this whole
Right.
cascade. And that's what I see every day, and it's always so frustrating and so sad that people are getting caught up in that system and not knowing there's another way,
I know. That's
Yes.
why we have this show.
which I'm so
help
glad you're
people.
having.
To help people to find that out, that there are other ways. You don't have to go through all that suffering and all that expense and everything else trying to find it. It's a shame. But I have to say something. I didn't know there was holistic dentists. Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. This is the first time I heard it.
Really? Yeah,
Well,
there's
how does it
far
differ?
few.
How does it differ
around.
from...
Well,
Go
they
ahead.
don't treat with the well, I guess they took metal
what do they do?
out of the
Yeah, a
mouth
lot of
to
times
begin
they
with,
look
right?
at the mercury amalgams, as those can be toxic, and they remove those. And they, depending on their training, there can be very safe ways to remove the amalgams. They may not do root canals because of the infections those can
Yeah.
cause. There's just a different
another way to do it.
Yeah, they have another way to do it, another way to evaluate.
Well, that's good, because I don't want to have a root canal. I never had one. So I'm going to call you if I ever say, oh, you got to do that. Give me his
Refer.
name.
Yeah, and there's a guy in Fairfield County, and his son's a naturopathic doctor.
Wow.
So, and they work together, and they have a wonderful practice. So I
Fantastic.
send people there
Yeah.
a lot.
That's really, really great.
So, tell us about the prevalence of depression, because I feel that, I feel like 9 out of 10 people you talk to have dealt with it. Either they're dealing with it now or they have dealt with it at some point in their lives,
It's
and
huge,
it's unbelievable
It's
how much
unbelievable.
it's
And the scary thing
skyrocketing.
is that even when I tell you some of the statistics on it, 80% of people don't report depression to their physician. Most people are too embarrassed to seek help, and they see it as a personal weakness, so they don't even seek help for it. But the World Health Organization and Harvard Medical School teamed up last year and did a survey of the world, and the United States was at the top of the list with almost 10% of the population,
Wow.
which is about 20 million Americans each year suffering from depression, which is unbelievable. And the medications, the psychotropic meds, are among the most widely prescribed prescriptions in this
I bet
country.
they
And
are.
unfortunately, you hear so many more cases of people actually committing suicide being on the psychotropic
yes,
medications,
that's
because
actually-
it adds to the
Your
suicidal
risk of suicide
ideations.
is
Yeah.
twice as much if you're on an antidepressant.
I know.
Isn't that scary? I mean, you would think it would have the opposite. You would
Exactly.
be less likely, but
There's a commercial they
Give
play
you
on-
enough courage just to do yourself in. That's what it seems like.
it's very
It's like that's what it seems like it's doing.
Oh
It's
my
like
God.
instead of like really dealing with that underlying cause.
yeah.
There's a commercial going on television all the time. Shows all the people, depression, the sad music, and then it tells all the side effects. One of them is depression.
It is. Yeah, it's
never
unbelievable.
understand that.
Some of the other side effects are like constipation, low sex drive or erectile dysfunction, nausea, insomnia, and you think, well, if I wasn't depressed enough before, now
Yeah,
I'm
those
gaining
things.
weight,
You're
and I
gaining
can't
weight.
poop, and I don't want to
Yeah.
have sex anymore, and I have, it's like I'm nauseous, I'm throwing up. Well, now you're going to feel even worse. And you know which age bracket they're targeting right now the most with antidepressants?
The younger people, huh?
Ages 0 to 5.
0 to 5?
0 to 5.
How can you diagnose a 1-year-old with depression and describe and prescribe Prozac for them? Can you believe that?
0. How do they
And
market for that age group? I can't even imagine.
I know, yeah. It's amazing. They're like, well, your child is moody, and you think it's natural, but no, it's depression, they need to be on these meds.
Wow.
And the rate increases 10% every year. These little girls.
They're putting children on that. They're putting them on
Prilosec.
Yeah, Ritalin.
for the ADD. ADD. When we were kids, there was no such thing. You run around, you're crazy, you do it again. My mom was always on, what am I going to do next? So I have AD. It's crazy. And now I just heard they want to put that age bracket on cholesterol drugs.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, well, the obesity is a rising problem too, but there's another solution.
Yes.
Yep,
Not
the same
drugs.
thing. I
Starting
know.
in drugs when
Yep.
they're so.
We just saw a kid the other day who was spitting up after they ate, and they were prescribed Prilosec. It's an acid blocker, and the parents were like, when I was a kid, spitting up was spitting up. It was normal.
That's right.
Why do I have to give my child a drug? And from my perspective, I'm like, well, what are you feeding your kid? 'Cause maybe we should just.
Because I think, yes, it's. I don't even with children who are hyperactive. I think that there is a change in. I think that there are some more children who appear to be hyperactive, but also we're evolving, and how do we know that this isn't just part of our evolution, that these kids are, intellectually stimulated to the point where, their surroundings bore them, you know what I mean? Like, that could just be a natural part of their evolution.
Absolutely, yeah.
And how do we deal with that? We're stunting that by giving them drugs? I don't know.
It's that same thing.
We have to
We're
learn
just
to adapt.
sedating
We have to learn
everybody.
to adapt and teach them better, stimulate them, whatever it takes.
Challenge them.
Challenge them.
Instead of sedating and turning everybody into zombies.
The medicine, the drugs
Right.
is just rampant in this world. It's just too much of it. Too much of it.
Yep.
So back to
What else?
depression, though.
Yes.
When somebody comes to you for depression, what are some of the things that you pick up on right away? Like, what do they present with most typically?
Most typically, oftentimes it affects their energy levels. They'll have very low energy, low motivation. And what I want to do is find out exactly, what characterizes their depression, when did it start, what were the triggers, and that kind of thing to find out. Because in my mind, as I'm listening, I'm also trying to figure out, okay, which system is out of balance here, what's going on, what are they eating, So each time it's a little bit different, the kind of information I'm getting from people, but in general, it's going to be that feeling sad, the low self-esteem, those things I mentioned. In general, people either are not eating at all or they're overeating, and then it's a cycle of I'm overeating, now I don't feel good and I feel fat, so I'm going to eat some more to feel better, and those kinds of cycles. I see a lot of eating disorders in men and women tied into that. But there, again, I may say, okay, well, this sounds like depression, which is a collection of your symptoms, but even deeper, what's going on with your adrenal function? What's going on with your thyroid? I just recently saw a woman who came in feeling depressed and complained of ADD. She diagnosed herself, and I said, what, this sounds like what you're telling me is low thyroid, but I don't need to guess. Let's run some tests. And so I don't know, is that answering your question a little bit about?
Because I know that there seems to be a couple indicators, like you said, the low energy and the sadness, and right.
And I have to say, I've had those things, one or two of those symptoms, or there have been times when I've eaten too much or not wanted to eat, felt low self-esteem, all those different things. Yeah, it goes,
and people usually know, and they'll come in and say, well, I've never been well since my partner passed away, or maybe if someone's really aware and they can say, well, I was abused when I was younger, and that's really on the forefront. And other people might say, well, I'm depressed for no reason. I don't know why I'm depressed. My life is great. I love my job. I love my relationships. But I'm just
that's
in
a good one. What did you find with that? Did you have some in a case like that?
Yep. And a lot of times that can be great with homeopathy, by the way. But doing the neurotransmitter and the neuroadrenal test, the neurotransmitters, I don't know if you're familiar with that term, those are the chemical messengers in the brain. That's what the antidepressants are targeting when they're targeting mostly
like
serotonin.
turning on or shutting off those signals.
So actually, this is a great thing to talk about, because when you go see a conventional doctor for depression and they're going to prescribe an antidepressant, they don't measure your neurotransmitters. They make an assumption based on what you tell them that you're low in serotonin, and they give you the most common are the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, like Prozac. And what they do is with the serotonin, it's released from one cell to the other, and it stimulates that nerve, and it says, okay, serotonin's here, and then the enzymes come and eat it up and it goes away. And it naturally acts in the body very quickly, but these drugs target it so the enzymes don't come and eat it up, and the serotonin keeps stimulating. And so you're like, oh, I feel great, I feel really happy, I've got lots of serotonin. But your body is very wise, and it has this feedback, and it will say to the other cells, we have enough serotonin, you don't have to make any more. And so it will shut off. And that's usually about the time that you say, well, my medication isn't working and I need more. And they keep upping the dose or trying different ones. And that's why it's so hard to get off of antidepressants, because you won't be making any more. But you can do a very simple saliva test or a urine test and measure the neurotransmitters. Find out, is your serotonin too low or too high? What's going on with your dopamine? What about epinephrine? What about GABA? And you can look at all these neurotransmitters and find out exactly what your neurochemistry is and rebalance it. And you can usually use amino acids or proteins as the precursors. And so you're giving your body back what it needs. What it needs.
Yeah. Not just trying to overstimulate that production of the serotonin.
And I see that very commonly with depression, with anxiety. You know, a lot of these sort of mood things can be related to neurotransmitters. And you can even look beyond that and say, okay, well, why are your neurotransmitters out of balance? That could be affected by your digestion, which we can talk about more, and toxicity. There's a lot of things in the environment now that are endocrine or neuroendocrine disruptors, and those get in the way. So you can always go to a deeper level. You can always ask why and really help your body to optimum health.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the way it is supposed to be done. Not just go and give me a pill, fix that, oh, give me a stronger pill, give me a different pill, but get to the root of the problem. Wouldn't you rather get to the root of the problem? Wouldn't you rather do that?
Amen.
And you know, find out once and for all what it is, and you don't have to take any pills. Wouldn't that be terrific?
Yeah, I agree, because I think otherwise you spend your whole life trying to run away from something. You know, it's exhausting. But I think it's also hard for people because it's scary. If there's something going on emotionally or spiritually, you don't want to address it. It's so easy to say, well, just give me a pill, and then I don't have to think about it anymore. You know, I can keep suppressing it. But I find people just go, when they finally can resolve whatever that is, it's such a...
Just to have the energy again, because that's a huge thing. If you just don't have the energy to deal with like daily things, let alone like the big problems in your life. I mean, that's when you just want to close the door and say, good night, see ya.
I remember when years ago when I got divorced, and then time passed, and it's kind of like a reaction happens later. I started to get like panic attacks, and that my heart was racing. I'm thinking, geez, am I having the same thing like you were saying? And I was like, you know, then I went to a doctor and he put me on this drug that was they give to epileptics. Okay, now I felt good. You know, my stomach was good. I didn't feel so, but I was talking to everybody like that. You know, so can't live like this. You know,
can't do a TV show.
No. So I went to Dr. Sensenig, your colleague, and he put me on a mineral. Boom, gone. Panic attack. I had low blood sugar. That's what it was. I had low blood sugar from stress. It was a delayed reaction, and it put me on this, and I've been on it ever since. Because you know, it's chromium, and it helps with the low blood sugar, and it helps with diabetes, right?
Yeah.
In my case, I told him, I said, "You saved my life. You saved my life." He laughs.
I think it's so wonderful because that's a perfect example, because you're addressing the symptoms, you know, but he's also getting to that underlying cause, so you're correcting that and helping your overall health, which is I think what it's all about. And it's amazing to me how simple it can be.
And done quick. Done.
Done.
It was done. Started taking it, gone.
Wow,
you know,
that's
so.
awesome. So how does diet play a role in the development of these symptoms of depression?
In so many ways. You know, it's not just what you're eating, it's what you're not eating. And so, depending on how far you want to go into it, but...
Go a little bit.
Okay, so let's go a little bit.
Because I think this is, you know,
it's important
our
to people.
day-to-day
We do it all the time.
These choices on what we put in our bodies and...
Yeah, so, okay, where to start? Well, number one, let me just say, because we were just talking about neurotransmitters, serotonin is actually manufactured in your gut, and then it acts in the brain. So if your digestion is compromised in some way, you know, if you're complaining of bloating or constipation or loose stools or anything like that, that can impair your neurotransmitter production alone. Okay, Secondly, if you're eating a diet that's high in sugar, high in fat and fried foods, you're going to set your blood sugar on this roller coaster ride, and you're going to be
Right.
crashing and burning all the time. So that's going to be affecting your mood and your energy. And something that you may be familiar with, I'm not sure, Traci, if someone's talked to you about food allergies and food
yes.
sensitivities.
Well, my
Oh, yeah.
daughter had a immune problem, which is how we got connected with naturopathic medicine
wonderful.
in the start. And she couldn't tolerate many foods. She couldn't tolerate any starches or poly and disaccharide. She had a immune problem.
So you may be more familiar then
Very
with that
familiar.
experience there. Most people think of allergies as the sort of immediate allergic
Right, and
reactions.
that's how I was
those are
trying
the
to explain to people. They're
skin
like,
stress.
"Oh, will she like react?" And I'm like, "It's more digestive." She had chronic diarrhea, vomiting, weight loss. It was pretty severe. She was an infant when we found
Yeah.
out.
Wow.
So,
and it's very common these
yes.
days. And that's a different type of blood test that you do to look at that. But that can affect, in children, it often is, the vomiting, the diarrhea, recurrent ear and throat infections. And in adults, it can be digestive. It can manifest as headaches, and it can manifest as depression and all these different things. And I've seen people completely turn around, like their whole personality, just from removing the foods that they're reacting to. It's amazing. You can see it sometimes with children with autism, and you can see it with depression. There was a guy who was, we're talking about black clothing. This guy only wore black. He was just like very dark. And he came back in my office wearing color. And I went, oh my gosh, you're wearing color. I've never seen this. It's so funny. So
cute.
that kind of a thing can make a significant difference. And also, if you've heard about candida or yeast
Yes.
overgrowth
Yeah.
in the gut, and that can be from, frequent antibiotic use and travel and
Yeah,
different
and
things that
coupled with
disrupt
sugar,
the flora,
which feeds
lots of sugar
it,
and
yes.
carbs, and that can make you feel spacey, that can make you feel depressed and moody. So much goes back to what you're putting in your body and how your body reacts to that.
I think that there's a lot of food allergies going on, and people don't realize it. Two of the most common, I think, is wheat and soy.
And dairy.
Because we're,
dairy,
and dairy,
yeah.
because we're inundated with wheat and soy. It's everywhere. It's in everything in the supermarkets, everywhere, hydden.
And corn, wheat, dairy, corn. Those
hydrogenated
ones,
soybean
the
oil. What?
products that are in everything.
Yeah.
Wheat,
Right.
milk, corn.
Corn,
I
eggs,
know.
yep. And if you
And we
think,
eat it constantly. So,
absolutely, it's ubiquitous. It's in everything now. So it's no wonder people are developing the allergies.
and we know we are. You and I are allergic to wheat, right?
Yep.
And Doctor too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I'm allergic
That's
to
a whole
soy.
other topic
Yeah.
about what we're doing to the food in this country. But nutrition is actually sort of parallel with biochemistry. Biochemistry is sort of the science behind nutrition, and they go together because all the foods that you're eating to get the nutritional value, those feed all of your pathways. Your body can't function if it doesn't have the proper amount of the vitamins, the minerals, the essential fatty acids. So if you're not getting it from your diet, and then you're not supplementing it, or you're not having a quality supplement, then your body's functions are going to be impaired, and that's going to affect, again, energy and mood, and all these things, appetite that we've talked about. So it's really important of what you're taking into your body. At the same time, it's important to avoid those things that are negative for somebody's body. Does that make
That was
sense?
interesting. You said that dopamine was
It's dopamine and serotonin
in your
In your gut.
in your gut. Yeah.
I never knew that. I thought it was up here.
I read one book and it was talking about there's more brain cells in your gut than there are in your brain.
Yep. Yeah. They often
Yep.
call your gut your second brain,
Yep.
and that
No
gut feeling
kidding.
that that we have. That's
That gut feeling.
Yeah.
we actually
Aha.
have a whole neurological and immune system all in our digestive tract.
Yep. Pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I like about that big term, neuroendocrine immunology, because it's really just saying how it's understanding the relationship between all those systems
Everything.
and understanding everything interacts. Instead of this Paracelsus where everything's separate. And in this country we've now separated. You go see a doctor for your head and a doctor for your nose and a doctor for your stomach and
Yeah.
a doctor for your foot, but it's all connected. It's all one person. So neuroendocrine immunology is sort of the science understanding that mind-body connection and how all of your organ systems work together.
So what are some foods that are good to add to our diet to just kind of help to restore that balance?
Oh gosh, there are so many things. I mean, the sort of the basic powerhouse foods are, getting your vegetables of every color, particularly the green leafy ones, everyone's favorite broccoli and Brussels sprouts and, blueberries, your antioxidants. We can talk we haven't talked yet about essential fatty acids or the omega-3 fatty acids.
Tell us about it.
But that is a wonderful, wonderful thing that people can start on right away if they wanted to.
In
to
what
help with
form? How should
depression.
they take it? What form?
Well, from food, you can get it from walnuts, you can get it from salmon, and if you're going to go into the seafood, you do have to be careful and look for the wild Alaskan
Yes,
salmon versus
not
the
the
farm-raised.
farm-raised, yes.
Exactly.
And why
With
is
the
that?
fatty fish. With the farm-raised, they are giving them different foods and different toxins, and it's very high in mercury and,
And they
other heavy
treat them
metals.
with antibiotics and hormones, and
Like
the
all
same
the
thing
other
with other
meat that-
farm-raised
Yep.
animals, yes.
Yeah. So unfortunately, but you can find wild Alaskan or other wild fish. And
the
you
problem
can-
is it costs so much more.
it does.
It's a fortune, really.
Yeah,
No.
you have to find good
People
sales.
can't afford. I think that's a big reason why a lot of people don't
Make
do
the
more
switch.
health food because it's so expensive.
I
It
understand.
really is, and that is
And
a
I think
shame.
we're used to having large amounts on our plate, and maybe this is a way for us to realize we don't need, a piece of steak, this big on our plate. We could have like a quarter of that, and that fulfills our protein needs. And
Yeah, our
you know,
portion sizes just keep getting
it's
bigger and bigger.
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so
you
if we
know.
were to buy the more expensive, better foods for us, we probably would feel more nutrition. Our nutritional needs would be met better, and we wouldn't have that constant hunger for more too.
Exactly.
Which is what I think goes on. It's like these foods are so devoid in their nutritional value that we are starving even when we're overweight. We have that constant urge to
It's
eat
so
more.
true. It's
Yeah.
so true. You're not quite satisfied.
Right.
And you're going to be hungry again soon.
Yep. Where if we eat nutritionally,
And I
sound
often
food. Yeah.
encourage people to buy organic as much as possible, buying local and organic, and I know that can be so expensive. So what I often do, I have a handout in my office, but you can also go to EWG, it's the Environmental Working Group, and they can tell you which foods, which produce are highest and lowest in pesticides, so you can make wiser choices.
Right.
If you can't afford to buy everything organic, I understand,
Right.
we need to be realistic, but certain foods absorb them more, so you can kind of choose, and you can carry a little list with you, and when you go to the grocery store, say, okay, I'm going to pick and choose what I'm going to buy organic and what's a little bit safer if it's not, because you want to reduce your exposure to pesticides and other chemicals as much as possible. If they're used to kill off insects, they're having an effect on humans. It's just, it's
more
we could
subtle, it
yes,
just increases.
exactly.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of genetically altered food on the market, especially vegetables. I understand that corn is soybean is completely genetically altered, corn, and they're also putting pesticide into the seed of the plant so that it's, you don't have to spray it, but it's in there and it grows and then the bugs will stay away. Wow,
Yeah.
gee, that's great.
That sounds great for people.
we don't have to spray, but we're still getting it. I mean,
Yeah, it's no wonder people are reacting poorly to all these different foods. Things that you think would be nutritious are now harmful because of all the ways we're manipulating what's supposed to be our nutritional food.
and the FDA allowed the people, the manufacturers, to not label it because they're so afraid that we're not going to buy it. Damn right we're not going to buy it if we know it's,
What's happening to it?
So,
yeah.
I mean, what is that? That's not nice. I mean, saying not nice is how
Because you
can
can't
they
use
do that?
certain
Human
words.
beings to other human beings. How can you say I'm not going to tell you, and you say it's not going to hurt you? How do you know? It hasn't been done. It hasn't been used long enough.
Yep. And that's a scary
something
thing,
so
and the
wrong with
FDA
this.
has really been destroying its reputation because they have just been turning the other way when it comes to prescription medications. And a lot of people, I was just reading today,
They
actually, there's a
start
whole
to say,
article in Reader's Digest about this.
Someone's
And
getting a little
Yeah, a little of
payoff
this,
under the table.
a little payoff.
And
That's
it's
right.
the
a
same
little
thing
of
with the
this.
research going on.
Yep.
So it's at every level that people are manipulating the data to fit their purposes, and they don't even have to publish studies. If there's something that has a result they don't want known, they don't have to publish it. And they can just handpick which parts
Right.
of the results they want to publish, and then they can present it to the FDA in a very cushy sort of way, and then someone can say, yep, I'm invested in that company and I want to get it approved. There was just an antibiotic, I think, now I can't remember the name, but it was giving people fatal liver disease within 5 days. And they knew
5
about that
days?
before,
5 days.
and it took a couple of medical doctors blowing the whistle and saying, my patients are unexpectedly having, jaundice and liver disease, and
Holy
several
cow.
people died before they put a black box warning on it, and then they finally said, well, maybe we should pull it off the market. And then they look at naturopaths and they say, well, it's unscientific and there's no evidence that it's safe or effective, and I'm thinking.
Plus, it's unfortunate because they won't even pay for the studies to help back you up.
And it's really unfortunate in a lot of ways because for most medications, the pharmaceutical companies are funding it, and they can have tens of thousands of people in these big studies, and then when it comes to studying alternative medicine, it's not that well funded, and you'll find, you know, a population of 10 people. So you can't get the same statistical significance in a much smaller group.
Wow.
You know, so there's a lot of bias, and I saw that too. And when I was working at NIH, you know, I started going, wow, this isn't as, you know, objective as I thought research was supposed to be. So
It's not, and I think the doctors don't. I don't want to call them bad guys because they're not bad guys. They really want to help people, but they're so busy cramming so many people in, you know, an hour or two because you make more money that way. And they're busy listening to the pharmaceutical companies. The salesmen come around and tell them about all these drugs. They don't have the time to research it themselves, okay? And that's what's really happening with them. If they would just slow down and do this kind of thing, you know, like it's our dream that they work hand in hand. Naturopaths and medical doctors work hand in hand to help to heal the people. This is what our dream is.
I know, it's not like one should fight the other.
No,
There's a niche for everybody. We're always saying that, and that's why we have this show, because, you know, there's a level for everybody, and we still need the doctors to perform the surgeries and remove the tumors and set the bones. And, you know, when something is at a crisis, yes, there might be a need for this pill or that pill to get you back below the crisis point so that something could be healed more naturally. But
I think they really believe that alternative therapies are not safe and are not effective. You know, it's been so ingrained for them. And I think that even with the best intention, they sort of, in general, lack a critical thinking because they can read these research articles and say, oh, well, this drug was very effective and people did very well and it was well tolerated according to the New England Journal of Medicine or whatever they read. And they don't know that even the research is biased, you know. So even with the best intention of trying to help you get well, they don't understand that maybe that's not the most safe and effective way, and they're not really open to other therapies.
But they're recalling a lot of drugs now, and I just saw something today. Cipro.
Are they good?
Yeah. They found out about Cipro. Now, how long has that been out there? You know, so.
And I've been working with some specialists in the area, which has been really wonderful to build that relationship and that network and know when I need to refer somebody, I know that this doctor is a really good one. And they've been starting to refer back to me when they can't cure the patient, which
is wonderful.
Really
That's what we want to see more of.
Yeah, and I like that relationship because they're the experts at what they do, and I can be the expert at what I do.
And I always say, like, everybody needs a team working for them. Like, everybody needs a team of professionals working for them, you know?
Absolutely. And particularly with depression.
And that can work together, too. Ideally, hopefully, those team members can work together to treat that person whole as a whole.
For the person, right? So I was just going to say with depression, too, it's particularly good to have a team because not only do you want to have the support outside of the office, but a lot of times therapy, different types of psychotherapy can be so important to have that space and that place to talk, particularly with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is, you know, in response to exactly what the name says, in response to a really traumatic event, whether you went off to Iraq or fought in a war at some point, you survived a severe traumatic accident or physical or sexual abuse, that can stay with people in this way where they have a lot of anxiety and depression. They may have recurrent nightmares, recurrent triggers, you know, they have to avoid certain things.
Disorder,
Like you, on a much smaller scale, if you were ever in a car accident of any kind, the next time you get in the car, it's scary, you know, getting back on the highway.
I'm working with a child now who was attacked by a swarm of bees, and the same thing now. It's summertime again, and it's rippled out. You know, she's afraid to go outside. She's afraid. So
So I can do what I can do in the office, you know, with my toolbox of things, but a lot of times seeing a psychotherapist who's trained in EMDR, the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, can help so that even when that trigger comes up, you don't have the same emotional response to it. You know, so it doesn't go away, you're not numbing it, but you can just handle it a little bit more appropriately so it's not as scary.
And energetically, we work with the energy system to help people rebalance the energy system.
Yeah, that's what we do with that.
I think the energy work is some of the most powerful work you can do with people.
It is.
Because that's essentially what it comes down to, even at the molecular level. It's energetic.
So we need all that. Energy
Yes.
healers, naturopaths, and medical doctors.
Yeah, and therapists.
Yeah, and therapists
Chiropractors
and
acupuncturists.
all of it. Yeah, all of
Yeah,
that.
all of it.
Natural and all. We need to do something about the drug companies. Sorry,
Insurance
but
companies.
Yeah, that's another
yeah.
whole
That's a
word,
whole other can of worms.
I mean, we were talking. I don't know who we had in the show. When was the last
Dr.
time?
Scallon,
They
with
did.
the
Yeah, they do
autism.
all the research, collect all the money from us, especially the cancer ones. They get the sympathy. Children's Hospital and all that. When's the last time they found a cure for anything?
Yeah.
Polio?
That was just one of my friends was telling me, oh, this weekend I'm volunteering. I'm helping to raise money for my friend who has cancer. And I just, like, that's wonderful that you're doing that. Obviously,
Right.
she needs the
Altruistic,
help. But yes,
yeah.
but why do you need to do a fundraiser to have health care? Why isn't that covered? It doesn't make sense to me, you know. And all the, you know, I think patients get upset sometimes if I'm not involved in running for the cure or walking for the
Right.
cure. But
We
I don't
have
want to
that
put my
same-
money towards that.
Yeah. Well,
Because
we don't do
they're
that
not
either.
coming up, you know. And
No.
I'm like, I want to support that, but only if I knew that money was going to actually,
Right.
you know.
That's it.
I'd
If
rather
we
put in
knew-
my time, like working one-on-one with somebody
Exactly.
who's, you know, dealing with cancer or, yeah.
What Dr. Sensenig and I have been talking about too is trying to come up with a fundraiser where we could put money aside
For
for a
holistic
patient
care.
who came in who couldn't afford our care. Let's say they don't
Right.
have insurance, you know, they have to pay out of pocket and it's too much.
That's nice.
That way we could say, okay, we're going to treat you regardless, because both he and
Right.
I would treat people for nothing if we could. If I was independently wealthy, I
Right.
would never charge
Same
anybody.
here.
That's the
You
way
know?
we feel too. We really do. We feel that way, and we have a policy that we won't turn anyone away.
Yeah,
you know?
so do we.
Do what you can, pay what you can afford. We do that because you can't. You can't do it.
No.
Right, and sometimes it holds people back from trying the alternatives because their insurance doesn't cover it, and it could be, you know, the answer for them.
Yeah, and I understand that. Out here, I find insurance is so expensive, you know, it's like almost more than your mortgage payments, and then you have your copay.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then at the same time, we're getting reimbursed less. But if you're already spending that much on insurance, I don't blame people for saying, well, why would I pay out of pocket, you know? And the answer is, well, maybe you'll get the results you're looking for.
Exactly.
You know,
In
unfortunately.
a shorter period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're going to save money in the long run because you're going to feel better,
Yes.
right? And prevent more diseases.
You know, all these things that we talk about on this show, and especially here with you tonight, is all common sense. All common sense. If people would just stop and think. It's common sense. Common sense answers to everything.
And I think what gets in the way, and maybe you can tell me, but I think people just get scared. It's
Yeah,
like this
it's fair.
unknown, and they're often so frequently reinforced to think that drugs are the answer and that alternative therapies are. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but people just seem so resistant out here to it.
Yes.
And I wish I knew how to reach people better to say this really isn't that scary.
And that's
it's
what
common
we
sense.
do a lot of lecturing, and that's one of the reasons we have this show, is because we want to make it understandable. We want to be the bridge, you know, for people to start to explore, to start to feel a little more comfortable stepping into something different.
And I think people are starting to now. I think because
out of frustration.
the pharmaceutical company has gotten
Yeah.
so out of hand that people
Oh.
are going, oh my gosh, all these side effects, you know.
Yes.
And I'm just amazed sometimes when I hear doctors say, well, you know, well, we can't say for sure if you're going to have the side effects, or we haven't done the research long enough to know, and I'm not a psychic, so just take it and see what happens.
Right.
But-
See what happened. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And they're going a little crazy now. Commercials all the time, constantly. New drugs.
yeah, all the
Bringing new
time.
drugs all the time. Quick, new
and
drugs.
everybody's happy and kayaking and riding their bike.
Yeah.
and,
Oh, they make it look so good and
Yeah.
wonderful.
And
yeah.
they tell people, well, there's nothing else out there. Nobody knows any other way to treat this.
Which is
and
not
there's nothing
true.
else that will work. Yeah. And I just, like, no, there's so many other things. I wish
Yes.
people knew, and it can be so simple, so easy, so quick, you know, and so powerful.
One drug, I think they say all these side effects, and then in the end they go, but not treating is not an answer. I know, but not with the drugs, you know.
Yep. And that's the thing, is that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be a drug or nothing.
Right.
There are so many things that you can
Right.
do in addition or
restore
instead
that
of
balance,
to restore
yeah.
that balance. You know?
And tell us, I know we spoke a little bit about nutrition, but environmentally, what's contributing to this depression?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great
Epidemic.
question.
Yes,
oh
it
my
is.
gosh. It's, you know, environmentally from every angle you can think
Again,
of.
yes.
You know, I mean, just thinking about this sort of general theme in this country, ever since 9/11, there's just been a lot of fear, a lot
Yes.
of
Yes.
stress.
Yeah.
Cortisol levels are
Yeah,
shooting up.
everybody is just so overwhelmed, and we're just so go, go, go. You know, I was just thinking today, if I were president, I would put everybody on a weight management and a stress management program.
And a vacation.
And a vacation. You know, like in Europe, everybody gets an
I
automatic
know.
2-month vacation, and they're just all kind of relaxed and groovy and feeling good and having a glass of wine or whatever, you know. And I don't think they have the same rates of depression as we do. What if we just all got vacations every year?
Yep.
But then thinking about the way we are destroying our food and our water and our air with all of these heavy metals and pesticides and organophosphates and solvents, all of these things have an effect on the body, whether it's disrupting your liver and your detox pathways, or it's disrupting the neuroendocrine system that I mentioned before with the neurotransmitters. In so many ways, we're bombarding our bodies with toxins and negative messages and different things, you know, particularly even for women. Maybe this isn't exactly a question, but just, you know, going back to the magazines and how you view yourself and the kind of self-image is huge, because
Well, we're being bombarded by the media with these images.
Exactly, all the time, to make you feel inadequate and I don't have enough of, or I'm not good enough this way, or those kind of things. So it's reinforced in every way, you know.
It is.
And I'm reading this book now, and I didn't even get that far into it, but I was flipping through the illustrations, and this gentleman was depicting this magazine cover with this woman drinking a drink, and then he did a close-up of the drink and a more and more detail close-up of the drink, and inside you see, you know, like subliminal messages, like, you know, like a naked woman and a finger pointing and like all these things that, you know, oh, you'll feel sexy if you drink this drink, and you wouldn't even know it to look at the cover, but you know, when you take it into more of a close-up, you can see these images. So how many of these images are we being fed without even being knowledgeable
and I think that's part of the problem, is you can't tangibly see the toxins in the air all the time. You know if there's a plane going over and it's dumping, you know, it's spraying or something like that, but you don't see it, so you don't know that it's affecting you on a regular basis. You know, now people are starting to have awareness about plastics to some extent, you know, and maybe that's not such a good thing, because everything we have is wrapped in plastic. Our foods are wrapped in plastic. We're drinking water in plastic bottles
in plastic,
and microwaving, and then what that's doing is it's giving you external estrogens, and that's affecting your whole hormonal system in different ways. You know, and we're getting that also if you're eating non-organic meat and non-organic milk, you're also getting growth hormone, you know, and the antibiotics we talked about. So you're getting all these things that are disrupting your hormones in all these ways, and that can affect. I just saw a little boy who was developing breasts, you know, and the parents were like, what's going on? And you're like,
I think, the naturopathic doctor that I bring my daughter to, I mean, he was saying that, you know, in some other countries where it's really out of control with the hormones in the food, like the little girls are getting their menstrual cycle like at age 4 and 5 and stuff like that. I mean, it's so horrendous.
Yep. And if you think about too, how many times, and you may have experience with this, you've dumped your medications down the toilet.
Oh yeah, and now it's showing up in our water supply.
Yep. So we're getting stuff from every angle now. It's a wonder more people aren't depressed, and you know.
Right.
And why, we ask? The answer is greed. Greed. More profits, more money. The government turns their back on this global warming and what's happening and the pollution in the air and all.
Yep, it's heartbreaking.
It really is.
It's at the expense of our lives.
Yes.
You know, and I know that nobody can cure everybody and nobody has all the answers, but I feel like naturopathy has so much to offer. And every person I see, it's like I just want to help, you know. I just want to say, okay, you know, let's figure this out. Let's talk. Let's, you know.
That's what we do with our
start
Reiki
with
too.
where
We
you're
try
at
doing it.
and what do you understand? What can I help you to understand?
Yeah. And one of the hardest things is when people say, well, my disease is incurable. You know, the doctor told me. And I'm like, really? Are you sure? What if I told you it wasn't? But they're so convinced a lot of times, like, no, not this, you know. And I'm like, really? Actually, most of the time we can reverse that, you know.
I know. You've done some wonderful things, and Dr. Sensenig told me some stories, of people. But people believe that doctors are gods, and they believe what they see on television. A study will tell you, you know, vitamin E is no good for you because they did this study. Yeah, some little podunk town, a couple people in a room, you know, took tons of it or gave it to some poor little
I always say, who
defenseless,
paid for that study?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like, really, like who paid for the study? You know, I don't know.
poor little defenseless animal? They did, you know, and then they say, okay, now we got it. Well, why? Because they don't want us to take the vitamins. They don't want us to, you know, they
Absolutely.
put down everything.
Oh, and they put down, they
They
put
put it
down
all
the
down, saying
nature.
no vitamin E, no beta carotene, you know,
Right.
no this, no that, you know, and it's
And it's so mind-boggling to me because I want to say, go back to the medical library, look in the science book. That is basic physiology and basic biochemistry. How can you say that the vitamins that are working as enzymes in your body to help you function are dangerous? You know, that's how your body functions.
Yeah,
It just-
that's what you get in your food if you're getting the proper nutrition in your food.
and then they say, okay, you can get in your food. Well, you can't get in your food.
not anymore.
No,
No,
because
it's depleted.
when I was a kid, they used to, the farmers, they didn't use
Rotated
all
the
that stuff. They
crops,
rotated
too.
the crops. They let the ground rest. They let the earth replenish itself. There was vitamins and minerals in it. But now it's all dead food because it's hurry up, head them up, move them out, move them out. Hurry up, head them up, move them out. That's it. That's all they do. Fast, fast, fast.
Yeah, we are like rapidly becoming so mineral deficient.
And that's
Yes.
why, like, you know, many of us are overweight, and like I said before, we're still hungry for something. We're still trying to seek that, so we're
Satisfaction.
reaching for more
Yeah.
food.
One of the things you reminded me of, Rosemary, was the research and the bias in that. One of the best examples related to depression is St. John's wort. Because you may remember a few years ago, it was, you know, big bold letters in front page, St. John's wort not effective for major depression. And I remember reading that and laughing because naturopathically I don't use it for major depression. You know, so there are many things to that one study that was done by NIH that I could argue as far as the potency that they use, you know, the amount, but it was also designed to fail because that's not what it's used for. And when you look at trials done in Europe where St. John's wort is used all the time, it's very effective. And in this country we say, well, one study showed it was not effective, therefore it's not effective. But then quietly, which they don't really advertise, are all the other trials they've done on minor depression,
right.
and they found it not only more effective than placebo, but more effective than the prescription medications.
Right.
But they don't want you to know that, so you don't hear about that. You just hear it's not effective.
That's right.
And they do that with all kinds of vitamins and minerals, and you think,
Right.
well, this
That's what they do. And
While
they,
hiding the studies of their drugs that weren't
yeah,
effective.
Right.
exactly.
exactly.
And they say, well, you know, they'll take too much, you know, they'll buy it off the shelf, they'll take too much. Well, if anybody has any common sense, they tell you on the bottle. Plus, like you said, it's listed in books. This is how much you should take. What was that?
And I always refer to naturopath. Like, I have clients who come to see me for energy work, but I know that, you know, okay, I know there are supplements out there that could help them restore their balance and whatnot. And I say, you know, you could go in a health food store and you could just start grabbing things randomly off a shelf, or you should see a naturopath, because then you'll really have a better understanding of what your unique situation is and what your body needs. And yes, they are available to buy at the health food store, but you still need some training. You still need some help in this department.
I agree, because they're also, right, it's the nutraceutical field has taken off, and you can
Right.
go into a health food store or CVS or Walgreens or wherever and find something and take it off the shelf, but do you know the quality of that product? Do you know that it contains what it says it contains?
Yeah.
And do you know how much to take? You know, there's so many times I see people and they say, well, I'm already taking that and it hasn't helped me. Okay, so where'd you get it from?
Right.
And how much are you taking? Because if you're taking 1 milligram, that's really not going to cut it. So I love when people come in and bring their supplements and just ask me, okay, can you evaluate these and tell me what you think, so I'm not wasting my money?
Because it is. It
You
gets
mentioned
expensive.
nutraceuticals. I don't know if people know what that is. It's a cross between natural and medicine, pharmaceutical, and they put it in together, and then they can put it into a health food store because it has some natural things in it. But it's not as good, not good for you like the
Yeah, and
regular
sometimes the
natural
shelf
things.
life adds to the you know, deterioration of the product, and people aren't aware that I know a big one is the probiotics that are sold on the shelf. I mean, by the time people take them, they're basically taking nothing unless they get a reputable source, because
And they get enough of it.
it
That's
dies
another thing.
off on the shelf. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So all these companies have kind of joined on that bandwagon, but that doesn't mean they're reputable. So that's why they should come to you.
Right, because we're very selective in the companies we use, and we do a
Yes.
lot of research to make sure that the quality control is really good with those companies, because otherwise you don't know. And some health food stores have employees that have backgrounds in education and
Yes.
natural products, but not everywhere. And you can go into some places where they've just hired someone in high school or college or
Yeah.
wherever, and they don't know. you know, and that's where people are getting more health care from. They're going in and saying, what can I take for my headache? What can I take for my nausea? And they're just pulling stuff off, you know, and that's when, like, please go see a naturopath. It doesn't have to be me, but consult with somebody
Right.
to find out
And
what's
just
really
because it
going
might have
on.
helped their friend or something doesn't mean it's the right supplement for them, right?
Yeah.
We're winding down out of time, so I wanted to ask you, is there anything particular you'd like to say in the next minute or two?
One more thing I'd
Tell-
like to mention
Yes.
is vitamin D. Because
Okay.
I've seen that so low
Dr.
lately,
Scowen
particularly in the
also noticed it.
Northeast, particularly with seasonal affective disorder. And, you know, in the winter months, we don't get enough from the sunlight. And it's a very easy test that any doctor can test for in the blood. And that can greatly improve mood. It can also help your bone density. It can prevent cancer, multiple sclerosis. There are so many benefits. It's something that's supposed to naturally be in our bodies again. And
Oh,
you
we're
can
not
get
getting
it
as
from
much
sunlight.
sunshine, yeah.
Exactly. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. as
Yeah,
well.
and people shouldn't just go grab it and stuff gobs in their mouth because
Right.
too much vitamin D can be toxic. right?
Exactly.
Like too much
Too much of
vitamin
anything.
A
Anything,
can be
right.
Too
toxic.
little,
But
too
beta
much of anything
carotene,
is not good.
They don't know the
and you want
difference.
to monitor,
Right.
and you want to get the right amount. You don't want to waste your money again taking, let's say, 10 milligrams when you need 2,000. So it's a really important thing to evaluate and get the right dose for you, and find out just in case. What if you don't need it? What if your vitamin D is fine? You know.
Yes.
But-
Exactly. That's why you need to do that. That's the problem. People just need to see a naturopath. And once you get the initial visit, it's just like, you know, you go when you need your tune-ups and you find out, you know, and you just stay healthy that way.
Exactly.
I mean, there's wonderful things out there, but you need to tell them if they need it, how much, when, and so forth.
Yep, and my thing is, I always love seeing my patients. I kind of get attached to them, but I
Yeah.
say, I hope I don't see you again. You know, come back when you
That's
need
how
me,
I
whether
feel
it's
too.
5,
You
10
want
years,
you
or
want to
yeah.
put it back in their hands. You know,
Exactly.
that's true healing,
Yeah.
so that they feel they can
That they're
stay well.
empowered and they can be
Yeah.
well. That's the point, is to be
Yeah.
well, not keep them sick and coming back for, you know, that doesn't
Right.
make any sense to me.
The thing is, out there, you need to educate yourself. You need to educate yourself. That's what you have to do. You can read, and then you see a naturopath, and it all works hand in hand. Naturopath, the right foods, energy healers, chiropractors, everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we really want to thank you.
Thank
for
you
being
so
on
much.
Time has
our
just
show
flown by.
tonight.
It has.
Oh, wow.
Well, this
So
has
And I
been
nice.
my
hope this
pleasure
was
to be
helpful
here.
for all of you. And of course, you know, if you are suffering from depression, contact somebody. Don't let it go. It can be a very serious problem. So if you would like to contact Dr. Aviva Wertkin, her phone number is 203-230-2200. She can also be faxed at 203-230-1454. And the website for more information is www.naturalhealthct.com. Okay. And to contact us here at the show, if you'd like to email your questions, you can
That's
email
coming up in a minute. There we go.
us, healoutsidethebox@yahoo.com. We're very happy to take in any questions that you have, answer them on the show for our general audience. And for show schedules, you can visit www.entirebeing.com, www.rosemarylachance.com. Or you could contact us by phone. Rosemary's phone number is 203-627-7966, and mine is 203-232-3405. Okay, and now we have our quote
Our
for tonight
quote from our Book of Courage. And tonight's, when everything is crashing down and collapses, remember that there is a force in us that never changes, ever. It's always stable and present within ourselves and waiting for us to call on it. Okay?
Just
We're
remember that.
stronger than we think we are. We're smarter than we think we are.
Good night, and
Good
join
night.
us again.
Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Good night. See you next time.
As you look out through the window to the world you have made, always know you are the vision. See